Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Command Post. My name is Sharp, and I'm joined by Nightpen
Hello.
and Jack Magnum.
Wizard.
And we're here with our second video. We're making
Let's
content.
go.
So we're
Consistency.
coming today making a tier list video just to kind of get across, our thoughts on the series and like you guys get to know what do we like, what do we not like. Probably
We're here
start a
to make
fire
you
in the
mad.
comment section. Yeah, absolutely. These are gonna be some hot takes. I can't wait. So,
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
do we want to say anything before we jump right in?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I'm good.
No? Alrighty then. We're gonna go by release order as they have it right here. And yeah, so starting off, New Hope.
That is, I think, at the very lowest A.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
it's
I was
so. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna also say A tier. Feel like it just perfect start to the franchise. Well, maybe not perfect, but a very strong start and a
Yeah,
very solid movie.
very, very good. I mean, it's kind of a like trope now of like, oh, a quintessential hero's journey, but like at the time, like that was not like super innovative, but like just really, really, good and refreshing and just also just a fun movie.
Yeah, it
And
was a movie that was expected to not be anything more than just that,
exactly.
Yeah.
and I think it
We
did its
also
job well.
we also have to give props on the technological innovations and just um and the sound innovations that they did through the film throughout this franchise really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't see a reason why A New Hope would be anything less than an A.
Yeah. I think they're like we could probably put it in S and, be fine. But yeah, solid A.
I think we're gonna be pretty harsh later on in this list, so I think this is a solid like baseline A tier, um, episode 4 in solid A tier. Could be S, depends who you ask.
Okay. Okay. I know we said nothing to say at the start of the video, but I do want some clarification on our tier list here cuz C, what does C mean? Like C I feel like is to me average, you know? Like that's an average move. Like is that what you guys agree with or like just so we're on the same page of
I think B as an average movie. I think it goes like extraordinary in S, like that was one of the best films I've ever watched. A is like that was a really good movie. I had a good time watching it. B was like, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a decent movie. C is like, you know, I would have been happy to not watch that, but if I was with friends or something, okay, whatever. D, I want my money back, even if it was free. I don't care. Like, I want my 2 hours back or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
At least
Yeah,
that's for me.
I feel like B and C for me personally, like they're very close. I feel like B is like more of like I'm kind of neutral in the more positive sense about it. Like it was average in the positive sense. C is like the same thing but in a negative sense, like average in a negative way,
Yeah, don't care,
if
but
that makes
didn't
sense.
didn't like it enough to care.
Okay. So B is our this is an average movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Understood.
Average that we do not have really any qualms with.
Gotcha. If that's the case, then I think New Hope has to be an S.
Well,
I eh, I think
I
we
feel
have
like we have like we also like, at least for me, I also take in consideration some of the dialogue sense of A New Hope was a little
Sure.
weird in some of the
Sure.
dialogue. George Lucas is, known for not having the best dialogue. So that's why I think it's an A, purely because of that. But
Okay. I think I can sit with A for A New Hope. I think it's a high A though.
Oh, definitely a high A. I
mhm.
think this is an A that could easily go S, but I think we want to probably not just shove everything in S because we like Star Wars.
I
Yeah.
mean, of course.
Maybe at the end, like once we have everything on there, we can like go back and just make sure we have
Yeah.
everything where we want
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And
I
then
would
also
say
like we can also order them as well, like within each tier.
That is true. That is
yeah,
true.
I was gonna say let's just do a bit and then we can talk about like, are we still happy with this choice? Because we might come to a movie later that's just like, okay, it was A tier, but A New Hope was better, and so we got to put it in S or something to that effect.
Sure. Gotcha.
So all right, Empire Strikes Back.
S.
Yeah,
That's-
it's one of my favorites, so I would have to agree.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
my favorite. It's so just like the like A New Hope is such a phenomenal like jumping off point for Star Wars of, like a beautiful start. I feel like Empire really sets the tone for the franchise as a whole. Of like, yeah, like fun adventure movie. And then just like we truly get into the weeds of like, Jedi training and what it means to be a Jedi and be in this rebellion and just watch them all be like broken down and just have to find hope in each other. And like Empire truly sets the tone for Star Wars as a whole for me, in my opinion.
I would have to agree. For me, Empire, I don't know. It's just the vibe was the thing that really got me for the movie, and I do agree that it has more of like a serious tone shift to it, and yeah, I it really is like the epitome of like what Star Wars is.
Yeah, for me, I'm not, I guess, as not as big of a original trilogy fan. I would put it like probably top of A, maybe not S. But if you guys both agree S, then we'll put it S. That
Hey,
can be our first S tier.
sure. S tier. I think that's easy. I am curious as to why you think it's like A. Not that that's like bad by any means, but
Honestly, I think it would be more just like, for one, I haven't seen these movies in a while. I didn't go do my homework before this video. I probably should have, but it just I loved a lot of the scenes, but stuff like taking down the what is it, AT-ATs with the cables,
Mhm.
and that just like it's probably a multi-million credit like land tank that's being taken down by a tow truck. Like Tow Mater could walk in here and take one down. And I think it's absolutely cool to see more like, Luke is trying to be more of a Jedi and, using his lightsaber more.
Yeah.
Because you don't
Yeah.
see a whole lot of that in episode 4, which I
Yeah,
kind of
no.
like. But yeah, I would say it's higher than A New Hope for me, but I don't think it eclipses S tier. I'm just basing it off of how much I love other movies in this franchise.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is very subjective. I mean, we all know the Star Wars community has very different takes on these movies. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
no one's wrong.
All right, if that's all we have to say about
Sure.
Empire Strikes Back, let's go. Return of the Jedi. I'm gonna go right up here with that.
Whoa, really?
I liked it a lot.
Interesting.
Dang, Return is S.
I would put it in A personally.
Where would you put
Dang.
it, Jack?
I was leaning towards I'm fine with it in A. I was leaning towards B.
Really?
I think Return is
Interesting.
easily the weakest of the original trilogy. I mean, don't get me wrong. The ending is phenomenal. The scene, like the fight between Luke and Vader, and Vader's redemption and all of that, like beautiful, like truly a beautiful scene. But the rest of the movie, in my opinion, is just so weak.
Yeah, I
Like, I don't know.
absolutely like. I loved some of the scenes in here with Luke and Vader, and then Vader betraying the Emperor, and the fight on the sand skiffs as well. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that a lot.
yeah, no,
Just
very fun scenes and stuff. I don't know. Death Star 2, it just gets me.
I mean,
that
yeah,
is
that
valid.
is something that was questionable.
I mean, Death Star 3.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that wasn't a planet.
I'm I'm fine with it being A. I do think it's lower than A New Hope.
I
Um
agree. Yeah.
Okay.
but so I mean, you had it somewhere different. I got to ask. You had it all the way up in S.
Yeah, I think I get more joy factor out of lightsaber duels and just like the fanfare of it, which hopefully doesn't bleed through too much when we get to the prequels. But yeah, I just if when I think back to my memories, I think of more like scenes that I was like, man, that was cool in Return of the Jedi than I do for Empire Strikes Back or A New Hope. If
Sure.
I watch them now, maybe I'd be like, oh yeah, genuinely they're better movies, but for just the memory of it, Return of the Jedi was sick.
Gotcha. Okay, so I mean, do we want to move that since you have it all the way up in S? Do you want to average it out and move it above A New Hope in A?
I think that's going to be very upsetting to a lot of people, but I'm down for it if you guys are
Yeah, I
cool
mean,
with
you had it all the way up in S, so
it. Yeah.
like let's go. I'm fine with that. Let's put it up there in A.
Alrighty. Alright, let's show our colors now. The prequels. Phantom Menace. Oh boy.
Phantom
Oh my
Menace.
gosh.
If we were going based off of like the last like 30 minutes of the movie, it's up here, but
Oh,
no.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going
I
there.
I I think you're correct, and it pains me to say that, but I do think you're correct.
Your boy is in here.
I know, Qui-Gon Jinn, how I love you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
objectively, I like the movie, but it's slow. Very, very slow.
It it is slow, but I mean, I'm so biased because I love it. I love Phantom Menace so much. The prequels are, my Star Wars is what I grew up with. So, I am very, very biased. Um, it is slow, but like I've like come to like love those scenes of like, the Senate scenes. Like I eat it up. I love those where, back in the day people didn't really. Um I think you're right though. I think it is B, as much as it pains me.
I was gonna say B or C, but I honestly like I don't really know which like to place it. Like it does have its problems, but it's just the nostalgia factor. It's just so good. Like I don't know. I love it, but yeah, B should be fine.
Yeah. I think it is fairly decent as like because it focuses so much on like the politics and stuff. Like I think it functions fairly decently as like almost a political intrigue movie, especially with the um the what is that literary device dramatic irony of knowing Palpatine and how he is the Emperor playing both sides and all that. But yeah, that goes. I feel like it also goes back to some of that dialogue. I feel like George Lucas dialogue really comes to light in the prequels.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
dialogue wise, we'll get to that in the Attack of the Clones.
Before we move on, though, I do want to ask Jar Jar Binks, what do we think?
He's grown on me. I'll be honest. I was a big Jar Jar hater. He's grown on me.
I mean, yeah, you have to keep in mind that like that was a character made for like the comedic effect and for children. Like I think he did his job. You know? So
Yeah, this movie it was on TV not long ago, and I sat down and watched a bit. And with that in mind, I enjoyed Jar Jar being there more than I would have if I didn't think of it just as like, oh hey, Star Wars is for kids, and with stuff like in the Clone Wars and stuff, I do like Jar Jar as a character. He can be annoying, but I think that's kind of the point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think
yeah, and he does mellow
overall
out later.
positive. Yeah. But also he's a Sith Lord.
I mean, he gave emergency powers to
I mean, yeah, but then he paid the price and was just a street clown
yeah,
and was shunned, and that was sad.
or Jar Jar.
Hey man, but he wifed up a queen or whatever she was. I don't
Do they
remember what
get
his
married?
girlfriend was. Well, no, I think it was just girlfriend, but
I see.
I don't remember what her rank was or even her name.
Yeah, that was a very odd episode in the Clone Wars.
Jar Jar deserves love.
I don't know about that one. All right, moving on. All right, Attack of the Clones.
Oh, I I love this movie so much. I don't know why. It's like I know the dialogue is terrible. It's so cheesy and so bad, but I love it. But even so, I feel like it's still a B or C.
I would agree B or C. I'm leaning towards C, I think. Um because, like it's kind of infamous for, how not great it is. But also like there's so many like really good moments in the movie of I mean the whole Geonosis scene is super cool. I mean introduction of the clones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean start of the Clone Wars. Hey. Um there's so much like really good in here, but there's also some like real stinker moments that just like really bring it down.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for this movie in particular, and I would like to swap these just out of my like personal, but
Mm,
looking at them as movies, I think this is where it belongs. Between Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, I think Phantom Menace does more for the franchise, but Attack of the Clones just like, oh, some of the scenes are so cool, so fun.
yeah, I
Yeah.
But then some of
I
the
do
scenes are Anakin.
being a
Poor
little
guy.
creep.
Oh, it was genuinely cringeworthy watching it as an adult. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're being so creepy with
It's
Padme
so
right now.
painful. So
Oh,
painful.
like, yeah. No, Anakin, I mean, I get it. He's like a emotionally suppressed 19-year-old, but like, come on, dude. Like, read the room.
Yeah.
But
I did
hey, it
like
worked for Padme for some reason.
Yeah, she liked it.
genociding a village. Ooh.
Ooh, we love it. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say something. I totally forgot.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked Attack of the Clones overall, but I think I think it could move between C to B depending on other movies.
I agree. Going back to what you said of like you think Phantom Menace does more for Star Wars, I agree. And that's why I don't know if like you guys or anybody listening is like familiar with the machete method of watching Star Wars, of watching
I think you mentioned that
four,
before.
five, six, you cut out one, and then you no, sorry. It's 4, 5, you cut out one, you watch 2 and 3 as a flashback, and then you go watch 6. And
What
it's
the hell?
like it's weird, and like I used to be like, "Oh, that's such a fun way." But looking like back, like I don't think you can cut out Phantom Menace. Like Phantom Menace is far too important, and that's why I like that method of watching the movies. I don't like it because like I don't see how you can cut out Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I especially like after the famous video of Filoni explaining like the
Yeah,
Duel of the Fates. You can't cut it out. It
it's
it it was the starter point for Anakin.
exactly. That's Anakin's fate on the line right there.
Yeah, also Maul is badass. Like
Yeah, also,
Yeah.
yeah, and also Qui-Gon. Don't forget him.
who?
Hey, 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 watch it.
Yeah, but no, I think so far out of these movies I would agree with this list, though it does look a little harsh. I feel like we like these movies more than maybe this tier list would show, but we need to be able to spread them out. We can't just throw everything in high
Yeah,
tiers.
I'm also like I like you said, yeah, 100%. I will happily sit down and watch any of these movies or shows. Um, but I'm also trying to, remove my personal feelings from it at least a little bit, and try to see it like objectively as movies and shows, and also as like where they fit in Star Wars.
Yeah. So, Star Wars, when you think of Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, oh baby.
Oh God.
I I I don't know. I think I this might be our first unanimous agreement. I don't. Am I? Is that
Oh, I don't
overstepping?
know.
No.
I don't
Oh
know. What
no.
are you gonna say?
Yeah, where are
I'm
you
thinking
going?
S. That's where I think. I think it goes up there.
I'm gonna have to
What do you
agree.
guys
I'm
think?
gonna be real. I
Yeah.
it struggles to be a good movie. It is fantastic at being good Star Wars.
hundred
Yes.
percent yes.
Yeah. Again, there are some Anakin dialogue that's a little bit weird, but this entire movie is just so fantastic. And the fight scene is
Oh
just
god.
phenomenal. Like absolutely phenomenal. The intro, phenomenal. Oh my god. Like I this is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. It's hard to just point at one thing and be like, yeah, this is what I liked. Like I liked everything. I liked Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I liked Yoda versus Sidious. I liked the March on the Jedi Temple. Yeah, I liked all the memes that spawned out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the weakest part of Revenge of the Sith is Anakin's fall, unfortunately. And I say that because I think it just kind of like in the scheme of like the movie, like yeah, we get a little bit in Attack of the Clones, and later after the fact, we saw it a little bit more in Clone Wars. But in regards to Revenge of the Sith as a movie, Anakin's fall just felt a little bit rushed to me. I would have liked to see more on top of the dialogue, but other than that, like unmatched movie. When I am like, oh man, I want to watch Star Wars right now, and it's just like, a weekend and I'm just going to sit down and watch a movie, odds are I put on Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's usually my go-to movie when I want to watch Star Wars.
Yeah, and the Clone Wars animated show just absolutely elevated that whole movie.
Yes.
And
100%.
I think watching it, I think for someone who watches Star Wars for the first time, it's worth watching it before Clone Wars and after Clone Wars if they don't want to dedicate to the animated series. Because having the context, of Ahsoka and like all the manipulation from the Jedi Council and all that just adds on so much more to his character and to his fall.
100%.
Yeah.
It really fleshes it out.
Yeah, and one thing that I did hear a lot about, and I would love to read it for myself, I gotta find out if I can pick it up, but the novelization for Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, some of the lines in there just go so hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and having more context as well.
Yeah. Seeing like Dooku's death scene with the context of the novelization is just like, oh man.
Yeah. Being able to like hear what his thought process was in the moment.
Yeah. And then I don't have the exact quote, but it starts off the novel with something of the effect of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That means the story has already happened and there's nothing you can do to change it.
Oh God.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Anakin, no.
Insane. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god. No, but
Yeah.
flame us in the comments for that one if you want, but I think easiest S tier.
Yeah.
I stand by that. Easy S.
Okay. Clone Wars. This is the icon for the whole animated show. This is season 7. So I guess Clone Wars as a whole, this might be even easier than Revenge of the Sith.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Oh!
I was gonna say A.
Wow.
Yeah.
Objectively, to me it's an S, but objectively I would agree it's an A. It's
Really?
just the first couple seasons are a bit rough.
Yeah.
But when it gets good, it gets good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say like seasons 1 to 3 is probably, like, in all honesty, like probably a B or C.
I would agree.
And then beyond that, it was just like it goes from an A to an S. Like it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
I'd be
I
willing for
think
top of A, but I'm still like, ugh.
I would put it like top of A. It is so close to S. The story that it tells, being able to watch the entire Clone Wars. Are we including the movie in this?
I think we
Oh.
have to, yeah.
So that's a part of like the Clone Wars there.
Yeah, it's not on the images, so yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I think it's got, because I mean the movie isn't the greatest, but we get to meet Ahsoka, and being able to watch Ahsoka, like, it's so good. But those early seasons really are kind of rough
Yeah, I agree.
to watch. Don't get me wrong, there's some phenomenal episodes in those first couple seasons. Rookies, like,
Rookies
that's
is
one
fantastic.
of my favorite Clone Wars episodes of all time. So good. But there's some real, like, where I like, if I'm doing a watch back, I'm like, okay, we can skip this. We can skip this. I want to get to the good stuff in like season 3.
Yeah, I would agree that the early seasons are rough. I guess I also just have the benefit of when this was coming out, I was the target demographic. I was still very young. So the movie hit for me. Ahsoka was like, she was cool, you know. I didn't really care one way or the other when this was coming out. Watching it now, the early seasons are rough, but I think that the later seasons do enough for me to elevate it to S that I think it's just, if you can make it through it, it is fantastic. And it, I think Clone Wars as a whole holds up Revenge of the Sith as an S tier movie.
So you're saying without the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith would be lower?
I think
A harder sell.
it would be very hard for me to put it top of S tier without the Clone Wars.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it just, where it hits hard, but where it doesn't, it just oof.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree. Personally, Clone Wars is S tier. But yeah. Yeah. Kind of like what you said, Nightpen. The first couple seasons, for a 7 season show, that's like a quarter of the show. That's just like, we can kind of skip through that. I had my mom watch Clone Wars, um, and she didn't want to watch the entire thing. She doesn't really like animated shows. Um, so Nightpen and I, we put together like a watch list of like, all right, these are like the must watch arcs. And yeah, there was some stuff from the first few seasons, but it was those later seasons that we were like, oh, like every arc just hits. But we skipped a lot of like those first, the first 2.5 seasons.
Yeah. As much as I love the show, like there are some fun episodes in the first couple seasons and some really good ones. But yeah, as a whole, like especially if we're including the Clone Wars movie, like I would have to drop it down to an A for that. But it's very close to an S.
So close.
Wow, I didn't expect it to be that divided. To where we're
I
putting
didn't
it down
either,
an A.
honestly.
I was thinking that was gonna be slap that in S and just move on, but all right, we have some different opinions. That's good.
Ooh.
I'm very curious now about Rebels.
I think Rebels is also A, but it is for sure lower than Clone Wars. I think it's still an A show though.
See, I
What the-
absolutely no, not that. I would. Where do we put it here?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm gonna put it on the end for now. That's not gonna be our final
Okay.
answer. I would agree. Eight. If we're putting Clone Wars in A tier, I would agree for Rebels in A tier. I absolutely loved the Ghost Crew.
We love a found family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, it for me it did a lot of what Clone Wars did. It just did it like in the more mystical parts of Star
Yes.
Wars, seeing the natural force and like uh, someone who's not raised in the Jedi Temple become a Jedi, and seeing like Mandalorian that abandoned her family, well, kind of abandoned, kind of
Yeah.
ran away because of the Empire, Um, but seeing their whole dynamic and seeing them as characters grow, because we find Ezra really young.
Yeah, he was so
Super young.
little. But yeah, I agree. It's really good, and the mystical side of the Force stuff is like probably one of the reasons why it's so high up for me as well. I like we got that in a couple of episodes in the Clone Wars towards the end, but I feel like it's something that Star Wars hasn't like fully explored, except for in that series. Well, I mean, I guess Ahsoka broadens it a bit, but yeah, that was the first time like we really got to see all of that and like see the other forces at work. Yeah, and it was so good to see like Ahsoka and everything that happened with Maul, and that also that scene with Ahsoka and Vader when they fight, like it's so good. Like
Yeah.
when she says, "I am no Jedi," like it's just fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, I love Rebels just like as its whole thing. And Thrawn being such a cool character.
I'm glad you brought him up. I was about to.
Yeah. I don't think you can talk about Rebels without talking about Thrawn. Just like his whole
Mr.
demeanor
Strategist.
and his approach to combat and his approach to his enemies being respectful. Respectful with an asterisk next to it. Yeah, I absolutely love the characters in this show, and also a nod for a very niche audience here, and Zeb being the voice actor for Dempsey. I just kept hearing that the entire show. I don't know if either of you guys will get that reference, but oh my god.
Not at all. Hey, I'm happy for you, man.
Dempsey's one of my favorite characters. We're moving on because it has nothing to do with Star Wars. But yeah, I adored this show. But where do we think it belongs in A tier?
That's hard. There's some bangers up here. Well, honestly, I think it goes right there.
Yeah?
I don't know about you guys. I think A New Hope is better.
Wow.
That feels weird saying. I don't know if I fully agree with that right now.
Yeah. I kind of a hot take. Like I don't know. I feel like this list has kind of gone awry because like certain ones I'm being objective with and others I'm being subjective with. But I have more affinity towards Rebels than both of the original movies.
Yeah, I'm right here with it. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I feel like this is a hot take.
I like. I'm trying to wreck because like that like it doesn't compute with my brain so much of like I'm really putting Rebels above A New Hope and I'm trying to think of reasons as to why it shouldn't and I'm struggling to. I think that's the correct spot.
Yeah, this whole list, I think this whole list for us, I think could be shuffled around day by day. I think it's very easy
Probably.
for us. Like, if we go back and watch one of these movies, I think it would shift. Compared to watching one of the series, then it would shift. And, you know, tier lists are subjective. They're always going to be. And I think
Even
that's
if we're
part of the
trying to be
fun.
objective.
You know, plus you got Chopper over here, little war criminal. Love this man.
Don't get me started on Chopper.
Yeah. Also, I do have to say, probably a hot take of mine. Like I feel like I don't. The original, I love the original trilogy. It's fantastic, but I feel like I love other Star Wars content more than them.
Yeah, I think the
I don't know
original
why.
trilogy absolutely did its job setting up Star Wars and making a world. But, you know, we have a lot more context. We have a lot more moving pieces. We have a lot more beloved characters. And, you know, not to say that the original trilogy doesn't have that, but it was making it up as it went.
I mean, all stories do that, but yeah, I feel like it also has to. We grew up with these other like films, and we watched Clone Wars when we were younger, and I mean, I didn't get into Rebels when I was much older, but I feel like I don't know. It made me more happy in a sense, like watching it. Yeah, it's just all subjective and emotional.
Yeah, the rose tinted glasses are crazy right now. Yeah, I feel like this is where Rebels belongs.
I think I'm happy with that.
I'm really happy with that because I loved Rebels,
Rebels is
especially
very
the
good.
final like Kanan and Ezra's sacrifices. Just
Oh, so good.
Oh,
peak,
yeah.
absolute peak. All right, let's get spicy with Force
Let's
Awakens.
go. Let's go, dude. What do we think?
I
Same.
liked Force Awakens. I didn't like it
you
as much as other stuff.
uh-huh.
I would put it here.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being a B. I enjoyed it, but I feel like it kind of rehashed like some of the themes, especially like from the original trilogy. It was a good starting off point for the sequel trilogy. So I guess I don't really have too many qualms about it.
Yeah, I think it was a great foundation for a new trilogy. I think that they dropped the ball pretty hard in this trilogy, and we'll get into that.
We'll get there.
But, some of the things, the threads that Force Awakens set up, absolutely fantastic. And I loved Finn as a character. I would have liked him to be the main character because of all the promotional stuff. They absolutely
Yeah.
robbed
Yeah.
that man.
They really did.
I hope
Poor
he comes
John
back.
Boyega. Oh, dude, I
I hope
want
he
him
comes
back.
back.
Yeah. I hope so.
And
I
also,
think I would switch Force Awakens and Phantom Menace. That's just me personally, but like if B is our average or like neutral feeling but leaning positive, I think I lean more positive Phantom Menace than I do Force Awakens.
your mic
And
is cutting out a bit.
oh, how's that? Is that better? I hope so.
Yeah, you're good.
Um, I lean like I agree with everything that you guys said. I think it's a really good. I think it belongs in B. I think it's a really good foundation, jumping off starting point for the sequel trilogy. I think they did some interesting things with it. I think it was a little bit safe. Obviously, I mean, there's no hiding it. I mean, it's pretty explicitly kind of a rehash of A New Hope, which I don't think is a bad thing, but it doesn't get points on, or I guess too many points on originality in that sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like there was some stuff that they wanted to go for, but they were just afraid of taking it too far out of, like, Star Wars as a whole. Setting up Finn as the stormtrooper that went rogue. They didn't take it far enough to make him a Jedi. Uh, Kylo Ren essentially being like an emo Darth Vader. I think they were afraid of doing something original, and yeah, absolutely played it safe.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Anything else to add on your guys' end, or are we good to
Death
move
Star
on?
3.
Yeah.
If 2 didn't do it for you, 3.
Yeah. But let's
3's
put it in a
got you.
planet this time.
Yeah. Rest in peace,
Make
Ilum.
it bigger. All right, moving on. Rogue One.
S for me.
S.
Absolutely S.
That's not a
It's
slam dunk.
phenomenal.
Oh my god, Rogue One. I
Yeah.
loved this
It
movie.
was fantastic.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I feel the same way about it that I do Empire, of just like what a foundational movie for Star Wars, and it really drives home the theme of, I mean, found family, of how, like, it's about like the community that you build in this rebellion and the hope that you find in each other, and sacrifice and the things that you sacrifice for the betterment of others. And it just so beautifully executes that. quintessential Star Wars S tier movie without a doubt.
Yeah, I love that they were not afraid to kill everyone in that movie.
Yes.
Like seeing like yeah, you see the rebellion and you hear about like the sacrifices they've done. But this movie truly showcased it. And I really loved what's her father's name? I forget.
Oh
Jin?
man.
No, Galen.
But yeah, Galen. Like I loved like this thought of like his character like being forced to make this weapon because like that. I mean that happens in real life. Like people and like scientists are forced to do like the
Lockheed
bidding.
Martin.
Call him out. Call him out.
But
yeah.
I just loved that movie. Like it was not. I feel like they truly were not afraid to make that movie.
And I think that's where Star Wars is at its best, when it is willing to be dark and gritty. It doesn't have to be, clearly by some of the rankings on this list, but when it does, oh my god. Showing the power of the Death Star and showing the hallway scene with Darth Vader just absolutely
Oh, so good.
slaughtering rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly showed like the fear that Darth Vader like causes,
Yeah,
and
that
it was amazing.
But
Yeah.
even the main characters like Jin and Andor, I liked their dynamic.
Yeah.
I
It was very, very good.
kind of a hot take here. I liked Andor more as a character when he was just in Rogue One.
Really?
Interesting.
Well, we'll get there when we talk about.
Oh yeah, we'll
Andor,
get there.
so. No one brought him up. I have to bring him up. Director Krennic, phenomenal character, phenomenal villain.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that guy, the quintessential guy of wanting to be the one with I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah.
He wanted power.
Yeah, the
He
power and the
wanted
glory.
the power.
And he choked on his aspirations. You get it? It's from the movie. You get it? It's from
Yes, we get it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this movie being like starting off with in A New Hope that we knew all these characters died, I think it gave Disney so much more freedom, or the writers so much more freedom with like, hey, this can be a realistic story. This can be a story that doesn't have a happy ending because we know how it ends and it's not a good ending, but it's the best like narrative ending.
Yeah. It's what needs. It's like as sad as it is, it's so like fulfilling because like, you're exactly right. It's exactly what the story needed.
Yeah. Give us more tragedy, Disney.
Oh, please. Make me cry, make me suffer. But in a good
Order
way, not in a
66.
bad
I want
way.
a hole in my heart.
Yeah.
I want Order 66, but not Order 66 for the 11th time.
Yeah.
Like as much as like as devastating as it is, and all of the shows and all of the games and all of the media, like there can be so much more tragedy past, Order 66. Like, I mean, heck, Alderaan. I feel like it's a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Give me
Alderaan, Mandalore.
Tragic Alderaan.
We got but a taste when what was the planet? Scarif?
Scarif, yeah.
Yeah, when Scarif got blown up, I feel like that was just like, wow, this is what Alderaan was like.
Yeah.
And just seeing them watch the Death Star come into orbit and just firing up its laser, just the you can just imagine the sense of doom.
Yeah.
Looking above you and seeing, oh hey, that thing blows up planets and it's pointed at us.
Yeah. It's almost cosmic horror.
Yeah.
that thing is so incomprehensibly large and can do like incomprehensible damage to not just me, not just my family, not as like the entire planet.
Yeah, I can't even imagine like seeing that and knowing that you are going to die. That there is like no way out. Like the amount of like fear and like devastation and just probably numbness that they felt.
Yeah, absolute hopelessness. And I mean, it all hit. I loved how this movie made you feel because it made you feel for these characters.
Yeah.
And also K2SO. I love that
It's
guy.
just a great character. All of them
All the
So
so good.
funny.
droids in Clone Wars just go.
We love droids here.
Give me droids. Give me droids.
All right.
All right.
So going from that to The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I feel like we have differences when it comes to this. I feel like Sharp, you deem it as the worst. I feel like past conversations have kind of you've mentioned that. I feel like after rewatching it, I feel like it might be a C for me.
I think the C for me too.
Wow. Are we going above or
Yeah.
below Attack of the Clones with that?
Below.
I think below. There's a lot in this movie that I don't like and that I don't agree with. There is I think my biggest gripe with this movie, or one of them at least, is the decision, which I get why the decision was made because of how Rey ended off her story in Force Awakens. But choosing to set this story mere hours after Force Awakens so severely limits character development, and it's like the characters are I feel like very, very similar to how they were in The Force Awakens. In the movie as a whole is worse because of it.
Yeah, I like after rewatching, like I understand a lot of the decisions that like Ryan Johnson and the writers like made a bit better. I still don't agree, especially on like the like Luke. Like I understand like the point of view that they were coming from of like the whole situation. Like he became like very jaded and everything after failing Ben and stuff. And just like I like we've had conversations. I can't quite remember of like you, Jack, you explaining like the way Luke got to the decision that he made to like with Ben, but I just like I feel like looking back at the original trilogy, I personally don't think that he would have made that decision. Um, and then also, yeah, we did have had conversations in the past where there's like three different like points of views like in that particular scene, so it is different depending on like each character and like the actual like actually what happened. But
Unreliable narrators.
yeah, so like it is like intriguing and like I understand the decisions they made. I don't agree, especially on Luke and yeah, that whole thing. But I don't think it's a bad movie overall or like a terrible movie. Canto Bite is probably my biggest qualm. I need to rewatch to figure out and understand that narrative point. But yeah, I don't think it was terrible or it wasn't as bad as I initially thought it was when watching the movie in theaters.
Yeah,
Tear into this
for
movie.
me, oh my god. All right. I think I'm gonna try and be objective about it. I think that Luke's character, it was just character assassination. I do not see a world where Luke shifts from saving Darth Vader. The last time we've seen him, he saved Darth Vader. To then turn around and attempt, or at least consider, killing his own nephew in his sleep because he's having visions that trouble him. And I just, I don't see a world where that happens. I don't see a world where Luke even is like, maybe he gets a thought of it, and maybe that's just the dark side getting into his head, clouding his mind. But I see Luke as just kind of pushing that out and then trying to take Ben and teach him and help him understand these visions and what's going on. And you can still set it up that he fails Ben. He can still have him fall to the dark side. I don't see him trying to kill him in his sleep. I don't see him being so crushed that he disappears off the face of the universe. That's just, to me, that's not Luke Skywalker, the man who saved Darth Vader, the man who took on the Emperor and threw his lightsaber down in front of his two greatest enemies because he didn't want to fall to the dark side.
I
And
think.
then just
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
some of the other plot points in this movie, I think, oh god, I'm gonna mix them up here. I think I'm not 100% sure because I haven't watched these movies since they came out. Um, was it this movie or was it Rise of Skywalker with the Death Star debris?
Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, then we'll get into that later. But I think that like a lot of the characters got sidelined for no reason just because of the like plot of this movie, and Leia suddenly being force sensitive. Like I would have been okay if she was force sensitive and like okay, maybe she was training, maybe she has a lightsaber, but clearly she'd given it up. But then not only like Leia becoming force like in tune with the force, but her also getting ejected out into space and unconsciously using the force to pull herself back in. And we're talking at a time where Carrie Fisher had just passed away. They could have absolutely done something different. Maybe it was like bad timing because maybe these scenes were already shot and like everything was done. I don't know the details
I believe
of
that
it.
was the case. She passed away after like edit had already wrapped.
I see.
So yeah, that's why like because they reused shots of her in from The Last Jedi in like her few scenes that she had in Rise of Skywalker.
But yeah, there needed to be some setup to make Leia force sensitive, or at least like in tune with the force.
Yeah,
And
I understand that. I feel like that moment was a little off.
I'm
and
gonna have to disagree on that point. I
okay,
think Leia.
when in the history of Star Wars have we had someone ejected out into space and then just like reach out their hand, their unconscious body, just pull them back, and they'll be okay?
We've seen force sensitive people become far more powerful in those moments of danger. And I feel like that is you know in the line with how the force works, because so much of the force is like it's very like empty your mind, and when your sole focus is survive, I feel like you can really tap into some very powerful force powers there. But in terms of Leia being force sensitive, I mean, they did show that she was training with Luke for a little bit, but in the original trilogy, that's who Yoda's referring to when he says, "No, there is another." You know, is that's Leia. So if Luke failed, Leia was their next attempt. So I don't agree on the point that Leia could not have been force sensitive or anything like that. I think they explained it enough. In
Well-
regards to Luke, though, I agree with your point for the most part. I feel like all it takes is a show, and I talked about this a little bit in our first episode of like my most wanted show. If you give me a show with Luke and and just show the entire galaxy putting pressure on him to succeed, I can see where he could get to the point of where he was in The Last Jedi for the most part.
Yeah, back on Leia for a sec. Just maybe I didn't word myself right. I am fine with her being force sensitive, especially Luke's twin. Of course, there's going to be that potential there, but they didn't. They didn't show her with a lightsaber. They didn't show her using any force abilities. They didn't show her sensing anything really. I think they had one scene beforehand where she felt something with Ben. But
Yeah, when
you're
Han
gonna-
died.
Oh, when Han died, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're gonna look at me and tell me that Luke was able to run away from her if she was a full-blown Jedi? She didn't have any idea where he was?
Well, he cut himself off from the Force,
Yeah, but
so she couldn't sense him.
that how long of a gap? I guess that's where a show would explain it. How long of a gap between him leaving to cutting himself off the Force to uh having zero connection? Because I feel like that would
I believe the fall of Luke's school is 6 years before The Force Awakens. Someone correct me on that in the comments, but I believe that's the case.
Have we ever seen how long it takes for someone to cut themselves off from the Force?
No, I don't think so. Maybe in
I'd
the
be-
comics or the books, but
Yeah, not
far as
something
I'm
we
aware,
would
no.
know.
But yeah,
Um,
my biggest qualm with Leia's force sensitivity, I guess, it just looked cheesy. It looked a little weird.
It did look goofy.
Her just flying through space. It looked so funny. But yeah, that's my only qualm with that. Really.
We also just have what was the point of that scene? Who died in the bridge? I know we had
Admiral
Akbar.
Akbar.
We had
Yeah,
Akbar in the
Akbar.
background. He
It's a
wasn't.
trap.
He wasn't mentioned or anything. It was seen by fans later that it was like, "Hey, that was Akbar, by the way." Like, he was not a part of the plot at all. He was not mentioned at all. He was just kind of there.
I think the point of that scene was it was more Kylo Ren's scene
Yeah.
to show that he, I mean, like
He hesitated.
he hesitated, he couldn't do it to like kill his father, he was really, really struggling, and Han borderline like ignited the lightsaber for him. And then you'd like, this is kind of an extension of that moment, but like this is also part of like my issue is like there hasn't been enough time for like any character development in between movies of, he's in the same space, he just killed his dad like mere hours ago. Like Starkiller Base just exploded. All of this stuff, and then you have him, hesitating, and then pulling the trigger to kill his mother now. Mere hours after his father. Like that's my issue. It's like that's just the same scene. That's the same. Like we're showing the same thing here about Kylo, of like he can do it, but he hesitates. He doesn't want to. Like it doesn't feel right for him. He has this, as he puts it, this pull to the light. That's my issue. Not enough character development.
He has a pull to light, and you're gonna look at me and tell me that Luke tried to kill him in his sleep. I'm not buying it. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
I need to rewatch it for one, but I don't think anything will really change my opinion on movie bad. I would
Yeah.
happily put it in D tier and move on. But since you guys
I-
agree, bottom C tier.
Yeah, I have to at least like we've kind of pointed out a lot of the negatives. I do think visually this movie was certain scenes were done very well. The kamikaze scene, just the utter silence and just seeing the ships torn apart, beautiful. Beautiful and stunning, and you could hear a pin drop in that theater. I loved that scene. It's so cool. I wish someone else would have done that, like a more prominent character, but
Actor.
I think yeah, visually that scene was beautiful. I also love the contrast on the planet, with the white and the red, with uh
Great.
yes, with the ships, just seeing the red on that planet. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I think the sequels absolutely blow it out of the park for visuals, and I think if we were going off visuals alone, they're easily the best, but visuals won't make up a bad movie.
Yeah. I will say us moving from Last Jedi. Last thing I'll say on this: us moving Last Jedi from D to C tier is like a very recent development. Like this is like 6 months ago, like max kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it for the longest time it like I agreed. It was all the way down there. I've softened to it a little bit, and I'm happy to put it at like very low C tier.
Yeah, I feel like as we've watched the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, you know 8 million times, since they came out. So I feel like as we watch the sequel trilogy, more things we'll come to understand them, and we'll come to soften to them. Um, it's Star Wars. It's still fun to watch. Things may change in time.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at the old movies and the reception of them when they came out versus now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. I would put it down here, but we're leaving it there. That's where it's staying. That's its home now.
All right.
All right, shifting over to Solo.
Solo, I think, goes up in B.
I agree. It's a fun movie, but I feel like there's not, anything too special about it.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be made by any means. This was not like I feel like Rogue One, now having it, I'm like, of course this needed to be made. Solo, I'm like, we could have gone without it, and I would have been so fine, so unbothered.
Yeah,
You
one
know,
of my points in the first video we made was that I absolutely loved the Solo movie. I think it was great. It was fun. I loved the characters in it and what it set up. If there was a character I did not need to know more about, it was Han Solo. Like, just leave him the morally gray, swashbuckling smooth talker that just, gets himself
loves
into
loves
far
his
too much
friends.
trouble. Yeah. Before he gets old and commits seppuku.
Yeah, I think it was fun. It's not a bad movie. Yeah,
Do we agree with
like
this placement above Phantom Menace?
I don't think I've seen Solo enough times to be a judge of that. I'm gonna sit this one out.
I've only seen it the once. But I think just as a movie, it is more intriguing. I don't know.
I don't have any qualms with the placement.
And I think
I
that's
don't
where
have
it
anything
lives.
for the placement, but yeah. If you want to
I
put
th-
it there, I'm fine with that. I don't.
I think
I'm
this
fine
could
with it. Like,
go either way.
sure.
Um, I I think it lands here because I loved the scene of him meeting Chewie,
That was very good.
Yeah,
and
that's
Very fun.
fine.
but outside of that, I do find very little reason for it to go either way.
I'm cool with keeping it top of B tier there.
Okay. All right. No, we've never seen this one. I don't think.
I was able to make it through 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even tried.
There is Star Wars media for us to catch up on one day, but that day is not today.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mandalorian.
I'd put it up in A. I don't know about you guys. I'd put it up in A.
Oh, this one's hard for me.
Yeah, I feel like A is okay. I think like the first 2 seasons were like very good, and the rest have kind of like it's intriguing to see like the storylines with Mandalore and all that, but I don't know. There was just it was lacking some quality and something was missing from it that it had from the first like in the first 2 seasons. Something like left, and it just doesn't feel the same.
I think it just followed its own formula too much, you know. They would the first season it was brand new, you know, we're discovering all these mysteries, and then second season it's like, okay, but are we gonna make progress towards our goal, or is Baby Yoda gonna eat something and then we're gonna have to go fix the Razor Crest or do this side job? When are we gonna move forwards? And I don't know if that was a choice for money reasons or they just weren't expecting the success of Mandalorian the way it was. But it felt a little samey for me.
I think the thing that they lost in season 3 that they had in seasons 1 and 2 was the separation from everything else we've seen in the Star Wars galaxy at that point. Everything, you know, I mean, look at the list so far. Everything here is so Skywalker heavy, you know? And I think seasons 1 and 2 was so like it was so good because it was new, it was separated. We were following this like Mandalorian bounty hunter, and then, you know, oh my gosh, this force sensitive baby. And you know, the, you know, father child dynamic there. And then I think season 2 was like really, really good. And it came to such a fulfilling conclusion because it like brought just that little bit of like, this is still involved in the Skywalker stuff, you know, with Luke coming back at the season finale and handing over Grogu to Luke, and it like brought it back just like a little bit. And I think if they would have ended it there, I think it's S tier. But I think having season 3 and, you know, we're getting more, it's like, don't get me wrong, it's good. It is, it's up in A tier. It's good. But I think if they just ended it at season 2 and like had this like I said, like we said before, tragic moment of like bittersweet of like, this is what he's been working for, is like getting Grogu to the Jedi, and he finally accomplished that, but he's built such a relationship with him, and just kind of this bittersweet moment. And then also just like being able to not fully know of like, what is Grogu's fate? Does he die in, you know, Luke's temple? Does he lead? And I think that would have been such a beautiful ending. But I think season 3 brought it down a little bit.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
I would have liked to see it split off into 2 shows. I think that leaving Grogu with Luke would have been a really, really good ending, and I think shifting the Mandalorian over to like focusing on him and Bo-Katan retaking Mandalore, and then Grogu and Luke building up the Jedi Temple and Ahsoka since she was there. I think that would have been much more interesting than them just kind of pitter pattering around with Grogu making a decision and then just going back anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like after season 2, they should have maybe switched the point of view over to Bo-Katan.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah. It's a really good show. Still enjoying it overall. It's just, yeah, the first 2 seasons, like, I don't know. There was a different feeling, and it was a good feeling.
Yeah.
And that just, yes, it lost something.
All right.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker.
I'm gonna let you two rate this one first.
D.
Easy D.
Yeah, easiest D of my life. It's so unfortunate what happened to this movie. And
Yeah.
it's so frustrating to watch because I know, Josh, you don't like The Last Jedi, but I think it introduced at least some interesting things, and for Rise of Skywalker to just walk back all of those interesting things and literally have the directors fighting on screen is so unfortunate. You have obviously somehow Palpatine returns, some ridiculous, whatever the heck that was. Palpatine's return as a whole, I think, was just a mistake. Even like what I was saying before about Last Jedi, like character development, I feel like Rey got like a little bit. I mean, Ben got so much in the movie. By far and away the best character of the movie. But it's just such like a nothing burger of a movie, and it just walks back it's just so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I think they dropped the ball pretty hard. And like you said, I was going to say the same thing of it felt like directors fighting. It felt like um Force Awakens set something up and it got handed off unfortunately to another director and he did his own thing with it. And then it got handed back and he was just like, "Well, I'm upset, so I'm just going to throw everything away that was set up in the second movie and just kind of do my own thing because I want it to be my product. I don't want it to be your product." And it ended up just being bad for both sides. It just
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, I agree. Like the fighting on screen, it was very unfortunate, and like if Rise of Skywalker like continued those storylines, I think the sequel trilogy would have landed a lot better.
Yes.
But yeah, I just like I did not like how sidelined so many characters were. Like I feel like Poe, like he was there, but like it wasn't like the first two. Um Finn, it's become a meme at this point of like Ray, 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 just screaming and like not really being able to say anything. And like him trying to say that he's force sensitive, like obviously, but like it never, it never got said. And I feel so bad for uh Rose. Like she showed up like what, once, twice, maybe? I can't even remember, but yeah, I feel so bad for these actors. Like they just got sidelined. And like Star Wars, like I feel like we love Star Wars for the characters. Regardless if they're side characters or they're main characters, we love characters. And for them to just put them onto the side and not do anything with that, like it didn't feel good. And I felt, yeah, I feel like Rey was in a place mentally that where she should have been like in the second movie.
Yes.
Like I felt like she was kind of in her like transition like arc. And I don't know, it wasn't satisfying, unfortunately. I wanted it to land well, but unfortunately it did not.
yeah,
Yeah.
they could have gotten a lot of points from me just by giving Rey a saber staff. No.
Oh my god, she deserves a saber staff. She deserves a blue saber staff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Yeah, that
but
was
in
a
all
missed
realness,
opportunity.
though, this whole movie felt like a plot convenience and just like a runaround from the writer or directors. And just like, oh, it was such a disappointment because everything just felt wrong. It just felt like the story was going in a way that was so far off from realistic that it kind of took you out of it. And this was the movie
Yeah.
that introduced force healing, yeah?
Well, technically that was in Mando before this.
Oh. Alright, Mandalorian goes to B. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean force healing just it ruins a lot as a concept, and if that's in Mandalorian, that's unfortunate. I do remember that now. But it being so prominent in Rise of Skywalker, oh man. And then just I could rant for so long about lightsabers stab wounds. It's just
Yeah.
make
I mean,
them deadly. Qui-Gon deserves better.
No, they just need to stop bringing back characters.
that's also
Characters
true.
need to die.
Yeah.
Let us be sad.
Just yeah, I don't like truly I don't know what to say other than it's just like it's so frustrating to watch. I don't mind the force healing really that much. But the whole character development and yeah, it feels like, you know, a middle movie in terms of character development, and they've tried to have this like really cool, epic finale, the whole galaxy banding together, oh look, it's this character, nostalgia, remember? And it's just like it just doesn't work. And it makes, the sequel trilogy worse.
I will say one of the few things I did really like about this movie was the scene with Ben and the Knights of Ren. And it was a little corny, but the handoff of the lightsaber was kind of cool to me.
Yeah, that was cool. That was
And
really
just
cool.
that the confident shrug afterwards was just that was Han.
Yeah.
That was his dad. And then we get I think it was a pretty cool fight scene between him and the Knights of Ren.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Kylo did have like the best stuff out of that movie.
Yeah, by far and away. I will say though, I'll tell this story on here because I do agree that like the movie itself just kind of it takes you out of it. When I was in theaters watching right on premiere release day, right, the uh, Ben force heals Rey, uses all of his life force, and brings her back. They share a kiss, and then dies. And my immediate reaction, I was in theater, like I said, premiere, release day. I laughed out loud. And I thought that it was just ridiculous. And I caught myself, I gave a good hearty chuckle, and I realized, oh, he died. And no one else in the theater was laughing, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, just not good.
yeah, one of the
Man,
things that
you
really
laugh at people dying.
It was funny in the moment, and I was like, "Oh God,
pretty
this
messed up,
isn't a
Jay.
good movie."
Yeah, one of the things that took me out was Palpatine being like on the crane thing that he was on, or being held up by whatever it was.
GLaDOS.
Yeah, GLaDOS.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No, I was just like, what is that? Like, what was the point of that?
It's you.
It
Yeah.
just made me think of him as less of a threat, seeing him in that state.
But he electrocuted all the ships in the sky at the same time.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
I have a qualm with that. I know you've argued for it, but I still think that's kind of ridiculous.
But he's all the Sith, so he got big lightnings.
No.
What ancient Sith would like Palpatine though?
What do you mean?
Like where all the Jedi supported Rey. What Sith
Oh,
would support Palpatine?
Yeah, they're all selfish jerks. Why would they?
I think that's more in the terms of, rule of two. If there's only two of you, like there's more power. So there's only one. Hey, you got all of it.
Yeah, they would have had to do some serious explaining for that for me to like that.
I'm not saying it's good.
I
I'm
know.
just-
Yeah, and
Moving
just
on.
well,
Enough about the sequels. Let's
yeah.
get back into the
All
good
right.
stuff.
Bad Batch.
Heck yeah.
Where are we thinking here?
I'm
A?
thinking
Question
A.
mark? It was
I-
pretty solid. I did
It's
like seeing the Empire, like the propaganda and them taking over. Like I told Jack, like, I don't know how many times, like, I want to see like how they took over the propaganda, the terrible things that the Empire has done. And like you got to see that, especially like in the first season. Um but yeah, I feel like overall the writers had a story to tell and they told it very well.
yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it's a solid show.
Yeah. I think it's up there with Clone Wars and Rebels. It's really, really good. It does so much explaining. A lot of heavy lifting in terms of like even like sequel stuff, which I think is good. But it's so fun, being introduced to Bad Batch and Clone Wars and then them getting their own show. Um, Such fun characters. Uh, you know, oh my gosh, I can't even remember her name now. What's her name? The little
Omega?
girl. Omega.
Omega?
Omega.
Omega.
She grew on me. I think she's such a great character, and the post scene with her and Hunter, just yeah, really, really good show.
Yeah, I mean, I loved this show. I think it was really good. It's here for discussion. It's not this isn't the final resting
Uh
place
huh.
for it. Um yeah, I have no complaints about the show. I think it did what it set out to do. It set out to explain the rise of the empire. It set out to explain like what happened to the clones.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like it achieved those objectives well and it told a good story. And I don't think it held back from being sad either. You know, we had Tech's death in season 2
Yeah.
and Crosshair's whole thing. I think it did well as a show. I don't know if it did more for me than A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. I don't know. This is where I struggle with it because I could place this anywhere from top of A down to like middle of B.
I'm fine with it there.
I think I'm fine with it there.
Yeah, it again, it's a solid show. There wasn't anything in particular that like I feel like would prompt it into B tier, but there's also nothing in particular other than like seeing the rise of the empire that like I feel like makes it like so special. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It told its story. It didn't overstay its welcome. But yeah, I think it surpasses like B tier of like, oh, I'm neutral about this, but leaning good. It's like a
More
really good
of
show.
this is what I'm trying to
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
More of this. Shows that do their job, they set up future stuff, and then they dip out and you don't milk them for money.
Yes.
Yeah. And you
Um,
have a good like conclusive story.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well enough said.
Yeah.
Bad Batch is where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Book of Boba Fett,
Bobby Fett.
like a bantha.
Hey, that's iconic.
for the wrong reasons. I think it's closer to infamous than iconic, but
I got it. Where would
so
you put it, Sharp?
I'm kind of thinking C tier.
I
I-
think
Somewhere.
I might agree.
I agree. I personally would put it right in between those two.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate, and like maybe this is slightly, my fault of like the expectation built up of like what I wanted out of the show, but also I feel like they just kind of mishandled Boba Fett and his character, and it's yeah, he's just not like the ruthless guy. And I get like they tried to say like, oh, the Tusken Raiders, softened him, which is like fine, but I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. And the scooter gang that took me
That was
so
silly.
far out of
Oh
it.
my god.
That was
Yeah.
really silly.
When it's being shot like a high speed chase, and you can tell these guys are going 2 miles an hour. It's rough.
Yeah, this was definitely not the Boba Fett show I wanted. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody was asking to see old Boba Fett. Everyone, I think, would have wanted to see prime Boba Fett. Like, give me the ruthless hand of Vader. Like, hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Again, I feel like something that Disney is afraid of is showing the darker underbelly of Star Wars that they really should tap into. Yeah, like I did like a lot of the scenes like with the Tusken Raiders, and like I understand that like they did soften him. And like I after watching the behind the scenes documentary for the show, like I understand why they made the choices they did in like that narrative, but I don't know. I feel like well I feel like they didn't give Boba Fett the respect that he deserved. And also like in related to that, like having the Boba Fett show be Mando 2.5 was disrespectful
Yeah.
to Boba Fett and to Tamora Morrison.
Yeah.
He
Hard agree.
should have had more. It should have been more focused on Boba Fett. We shouldn't have had Mando show up
3
for
episodes
like that.
of Mando.
Yeah, like it's fine, like Mando like coming in, but he should have been a side character. It shouldn't have been a focus.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded him calling him in for help, with a big battle or something.
Sure.
That's just you're building a universe here. You have 2 already connected characters. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Don't make 3 episodes where your main character is not in it. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Also, like having like such an integral point of the Mandalorian of Grogu returning to Mando in another show is also like huge misplay on like the Mandalorian's part.
Yeah.
Like that's such an important moment. And I remember, I think going back to my mom, I think we watched Mando season 3 before Boba Fett, and we like backtracked to Boba Fett, and she was very confused because she was like, wait, last we left off, Grogu left and he's just back. And it's just like, oh, that's right. You haven't watched the other show where this important thing happened. Yeah.
I think that is a huge drop of the ball. It just in storytelling as a whole, I just like you can't have a product that is its own thing, but simultaneously you need like part of that show is in another show. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can't bridge that gap because not everyone is going to watch every piece of media. And also, just before we move on, Cad Bane.
I've had that thought of like, just another kind of misused character. I'm not as mad about Cad Bane as I am about Boba Fett, but it is still just kind of unfortunate how that all went down and played out.
Yeah, overall, just like more of this, less of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all to be said about Boba Fett. Let's go
Yeah.
to Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Sharp, you're the Obi-Wan guy. Give us your thoughts.
Oh man,
Place it.
I enjoyed watching the show. I don't like the way they took the characters. Well, I guess that's not exactly true. I like how they kind of tortured Obi-Wan with Vader's presence and, him finding out about it. I don't like how the show started where he's essentially just like a nobody, disconnected from the Force. He's like, you know, he's in a bad place. Absolutely. Give me more of Obi-Wan in a depressed state than in like a meat shop stealing meat for his bird.
Yeah.
It took a while to get going. Oh man. Seeing the Inquisitors go after him was just kind of strange. I feel like with a name like Obi-Wan Kenobi, I don't think there is Inquisitors going for that. I think there is Vader. And especially setting up a new Inquisitor with Reva or Riva. What is it?
Yeah.
Riva?
Riva.
Yeah,
I think Riva was unfortunate.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting character for sure.
For sure.
But I don't think Obi-Wan Kenobi show is the place for you to introduce a new Inquisitor and then have her
Agreed.
stabbed twice in the chest with a lightsaber and not die either time. But I think we got some cool scenes. I liked seeing Vader essentially toy with Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
but oh man, I struggled to. I'm kind of feeling like bottom B or top of C. I'll go top of C.
I'd put it bottom B. Uh, in terms of I feel kind of neutral about it, but I lean more positive. I like it's kind of similar to Boba Fett in that way of like it's a show. I feel more positive about Obi-Wan and I feel more negative about Boba Fett. But also in the same vein, S because Qui-Gon.
I would maybe you've convinced me for bottom B, but I just feel like a lot of these characters just don't get the respect when they're such big names. But now, I guess now that I'm thinking more about it, I loved young Leia.
Young Leia was
she was so
very
great.
good.
Yeah, I feel like overall, I feel like the show, like it was average, leaning positive. Like I don't really have anything bad to say about it, but I wasn't like elated when watching. Young Leia was great. She was so like quirky and like sassy. So I think she did very well. And we love Ewan McGregor, like seeing him again, especially like he loves his character. So
Yeah.
like I feel like you can see that in the show. Yeah, I the Inquisitor stuff, yeah, I feel like it was all right. I don't really have any like negativity. Yeah, I don't really have any negativity towards the show or like any of the decisions they made really, but I don't think that they did everything they could to make the show great.
I'm also pretty sure this show had a really low budget for compared to like Andor was at the similar time frame.
Interesting.
And
I don't know anything about that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I looked at that because I was like, Obi-Wan's my favorite character, so I was a little disappointed when it felt a little half-baked at points. I'm pretty sure it had just like a portion of the budget that Andor had.
I see.
And it was good. I feel like a few of the scenes were absolutely corny. The final fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, I wanted to see more Obi-Wan versus Anakin, but I think the writers were going more for Ben versus Darth Vader.
I see. That's an interesting way of putting it.
I don't know. The rock throwing at Vader was kind of stupid to me. Like, the moment of being pushed to the edge of death and then like coming back thinking of Luke and Leia, that's absolutely Obi-Wan's thing. Like, I could absolutely see that. I liked that. But then just kind of throwing rocks at Vader as he just stands there, it just felt a little weird. And then him walking away from an injured Vader. I wasn't expecting anyone to die. Clearly, you can't have that happen. But
Yeah.
I was expecting there to be like some natural disaster or big monster or something that cuts them off from each other that ends the duel.
I agree. That's what needed to happen because we get that same moment of leaving Anakin to die in Revenge of the Sith and having that just kind of happen again and just like then my friend is truly dead is kind of lackluster end to that fight. Like there needed to be some sort of external reason why the duel was stopped and why, you know, like obviously there's the reason that it can't continue because Obi-Wan needs to protect Luke. But yeah, there needs to be a reason in the moment of like this duel is stopping right now because of XYZ.
Yeah. It felt very strange to just watch Obi-Wan walk away from a Vader that is crippled, knowing that he's going to do more atrocities in the future. And knowing that Obi-Wan walked in prepared to kill him to prevent more atrocities and then just doesn't.
Yeah.
That all we have to say about the Kenobi show?
I think so.
Yeah.
Alright. Andor it is.
S. I feel like, in my opinion, this is another easy S.
Yeah, it's really good.
Where do you guys place it though compared to the movies?
I think it's lowest for now, but I think it is still solid S. I kind of touched on this before. It's kind of same vein of, Rogue One. It leans more into that darker tone.
Yes.
A little bit further than Rogue One, I think, but I think it accomplishes it really well. And, I talked about this in our first episode of just like how it is like quintessential Star Wars and really like captures that like ethos of what Star Wars is of, rebellion and hope and finding hope in like the darkest of times of, like watching the scenes of Andor in the prison, it's like a slog in a good way. Like you feel like every single moment there of just how hard it is and how he like perseveres through and he finds his hope in being able to build a community with the other prisoners around him, and that's how they ultimately, shut the place down and escape. I feel like the entire show is just so it understands Star Wars in that way of that hope, of that family, of that love, of that friendship. It's so good. It accomplishes everything it sets out to and more. I'm so excited for season 2.
Yeah, I feel very much the same way. I really enjoyed the show. I liked seeing the darker side of the rebellion or like the start of the rebellion and just I like sitting in the world, like in the universe, like seeing just the day to day at the beginning. And just like also like it was like yeah, like we got Coruscant and we got like the core rebellion and all that, but it felt separate from most of the media. I mean, obviously not from Rogue One, but it felt separate from the Skywalker saga. And it just like it felt more down to earth because of that. And I also I like the political intrigue. I feel like we should get more of that. I would love to have more politics in Star Wars. I feel like some of my favorite scenes, like even within the Skywalker saga, are the political scenes, the Senate scenes, so I really enjoyed like watching the cogs move the machine.
Yeah, so I had kind of a negative experience with Andor of I watched it with my family and my mom was just constantly in my ear every episode. This isn't Star Wars. This is terrible. Oh my god, this is the worst show I've ever seen. Why would they even make this? So I want to give this show a rewatch on my own so that I don't have that in my ear every episode. I think the prison scene really cool. Like the whole prison, like the setup for it, seeing them put the puzzle pieces together of hey, we're not getting out of here before leading the prison break. I think it was pretty cool to see that. The heist felt kind of lost on me. It just kind of felt a little weird to me, but seeing like the inner workings and the underhandedness of the rebellion in its early stages and seeing like you said the political side of it and all that stuff, I absolutely enjoyed the heck out of that. I wouldn't want to show purely on it, but I like the addition of it into my Star Wars media. I like knowing the context of what's going on with the greater galaxy, and a lot of that is in the Senate chambers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I very much differ from that. I could watch a show purely based on the Senate and like the team ups, the tactical maneuvers within the Senate. Like I feel like there were points like I did read the Padme novels and like I feel like there was a little bit of that, especially like when they were showcasing Padme as a senator. And I really enjoy it. I think seeing that would be great for TV.
I do like the scenes where they include senators, and I really liked the scenes in like Bad Batch where they're having previous separatist and republic senators meeting in secret, especially with Senator Chuchi. I
Mm-hmm.
loved all those scenes, and I like seeing them have to go around the back of the Empire. But yeah, I don't think I could watch a full show on it. It would be pretty hard. It would probably get kind of stale, but I like that they seem to be leaning towards setting up political story points and they're not shying away from that.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I definitely don't know if I would put it as tier, but I definitely need to give it a rewatch before I rate it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But also looking forward to season 2.
So excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
All right. Anything to add or we move on?
Moving on.
Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi is just more Clone Wars. I like that.
I honestly would rate it as an S.
I agree.
Wow, okay.
It like I know that it like builds upon like the Clone Wars and is related to it, but I feel that like having each story like in such a short, concise way, like I love a complete story. I love the like each episode they had a story to tell and they told it and it was fantastic.
Sharp, you listen to me. You give Qui-Gon this S tier. You give Qui-Gon this S tier. If you don't, I swear, he deserves it. He's such a good Jedi. No, I 100% agree. It's really, really good. Being able to see, um, how everything relates, you know, between like Ahsoka and the scenes in Clone Wars and her development versus, you know, Count Dooku and his fall, and being able to like really, really see that, um, and how he was just kind of played is really, really fascinating. I, you know, like, yeah, they're like short little, like they're not like full like episodes, and like each episode is its own story, and there's good and bad to that, but I think they just accomplish it really, really well in this kind of, you know, short episode kind of format. And I also like, it's such good Star Wars.
I would agree that it's really good Star Wars. I don't know if I would put it in S tier. I feel like it just doesn't have enough substance to be there. I would probably put it either like right above Mandalorian or right below Rebels. But I think that's because I really like to sink my teeth into the story. And Tales of the Jedi was just over so fast. And don't get me wrong, absolutely loved Tales of the Jedi. Like both arcs that they went into, just oh my god. Especially the transition with Ahsoka having Rex behind her for Order
Oh,
66.
devastating.
Oh my god. It's good Star Wars.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot more to say, but give me more of that. But
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it longer. Give me Clone Wars 2. Give me Clone Wars, but in the Rebellion. Make me care about Rebels the way you made me care about clones.
I hate to break it to you, man. There's this really cool show called Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, but that
Well-
was at the end of Rebels was the start of the war. You know, like you still have quite a bit of time to make.
I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Jack, I'll put it this way. I would look you dead in the face and do that.
Dang. Dang.
When I finished Rebels, I loved it so much that it was genuinely higher for me than Clone Wars. I think
Wow.
as a whole show, Clone Wars is better, but the peak of Rebels at the end, oh my god, one of my favorite things in Star Wars was the end of Rebels.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it is very, very good.
Yeah, but I do think that we need to expand the other eras more. The Clone Wars has gotten so much attention and is so good and so expanded upon. I want to care more about different times and
I
even beyond the
100% agree.
Skywalker saga.
Yeah, I do
Yes.
think that they should probably do something in between, you know, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. I would love to see, like, obviously there was some political turmoil. It's been touched on a little bit in some of these other shows, but I want to see more details, and I feel like having an animated show set before the sequel trilogy would be really good. But I also like I I want to get away from the Skywalker saga a bit. I would love more shows to not be afraid to venture out. We have an entire universe. Like we have this galaxy. They just showed in Ahsoka there's another galaxy.
Galaxy number 2.
Yeah, so like we have more to explore.
They're
We
gonna
had,
give us
like-
Tatooine too. Woo!
Yeah. More desert planets, please. More desert planets.
No. But yeah, I just like I wanna get out of the Skywalker saga a bit. I wanna see more down to earth, like day to day, like what is that citizen doing over there? Like what is these people on the planet doing? What are the pirates in these areas doing?
Give me a Tales of Hondo Onaka.
Yes.
Oh,
That'd be so funny.
that would be so good. So
Speaking
I guess-
speaking of new eras and quintessential Star Wars, you know, Jedi Younglings, you know, I think it's so
that's
good.
crazy. Didn't ask.
It's
Now, I did, out of curiosity, watch the first episode of this show, and it is very cute. It's definitely for, like, you know, toddlers. It's for the little babies. But it's like it's that stereotypical like little show with like the characters like going and doing something and learning a lesson. It's cute, but that's really all I have to say. I don't know if like it gets into anything like later on. I have seen people online say that they enjoy it while like watching with their kids, but yeah, the first episode at least it was cute. And yeah, I think it's a definite like it's a fantastic way to indoctrinate your children into loving Star Wars.
Yeah, and Star Wars originally was for kids and still is for kids, and I think there's no problem with us having children's shows.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between made for kids and kids show. I think, Jedi Younglings is a kids show, but like I think everything in Star Wars, maybe bar Andor, and I think even that's kind of a stretch, is like made for kids. Like a kid could watch it and like understand and enjoy, But yeah, Jedi Younglings is truly the only thing that I think is like a kids show.
All right, well, we spent more time on that than I thought we would, so let's move on to something we have watched in Ahsoka. And Nightpen, I know that's your favorite character, one of your favorite characters, so why don't you lead us off here?
Yeah, I do have to point out that I do think at times I do think that Ahsoka was a bit slow, like pacing wise. But overall, I think it was a good show, especially if you watched Rebels. It was like it was an homage. It was a continuation of Rebels essentially. So, I don't know. I would have to maybe do low A, high B. I don't think that it was the best thing in the world. It had really, really great moments, but it was maybe different than I was expecting. And maybe that's why I'm a little more muted about it, but it was a good show and I'm excited for the second season.
Yeah, absolutely felt like Rebels season 5, which caught me off guard, but I was there for it. I kind of didn't care 100% for them shifting her attitude so much to her being kind of standoffish, but I get the reasoning, and I am looking forward to see her character develop as more seasons come out, and especially with the ending where her and Sabine are stuck in the other galaxy.
Yeah. I think I would keep it kind of where it is at low A there. I think it was a really good show. Um I agree. It was kind of slow, There were some things that, you know, maybe kind of her personality and how it kind of has changed. Um like you said, Sharp, it kind of uh rubbed me the wrong way. But I like the direction her character is going, of kind of being almost the Gandalf of Star Wars kind of thing. I think that's really, really interesting. I think it's a good direction for her character. Um, yeah, it was a really good show. It was, I'm excited for the next season. I think it's perfect spot for it, right there at low A. I don't think I would put it as low as B, but I think that's right where it should go.
Yeah, it left me wanting more, which I think is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think A is solid for it. Well, not much more to say. Let's go to
Yeah.
Tales of the Jedi. Or Tales of the Empire, sorry.
Tales of the Empire, I think I would put in B. I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't, I mean, look, I put Tales of the Jedi all the way up in S, and Tales of the Empire just kind of wasn't that. And it was kind of disappointing, the direction that I think it took the characters. And even like, Morgan Elspeth is an interesting character, but I don't know. Her getting, her own section there in Tales of the Empire, I it felt kind of weird. Like I wasn't ready for that yet. I don't care enough about that character yet.
What were you gonna do? Resurrect her?
Well, no, it's it's just like I don't know. I think
Yeah,
they could have found a different character.
I get what you mean. And yeah, it felt weird for me because I was like, man, this character's dead. Her story's done. We're not probably going to see too much more of her. Why are we getting a whole arc for her? But
I mean, you could have said the same thing about Count Dooku in Tales of the Jedi.
true, but I feel like Count Dooku was more entwined with the overall story, and he was a much more prominent character overall.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also was a bit like disappointed when we watched it. It wasn't terrible, but like in comparing it to Tales of the Jedi, and like I felt like I expected it to be just as good and as like cohesive, but it wasn't. I would have much rather had another character other than Morgan, maybe Thrawn or like Tarkin or somebody within like somebody in like more involved in the Imperial like hierarchy. And then Barriss, I do understand where they had her, like, you know, in relation to the Empire because of like her starting to become an Inquisitor, but like I just ultimately I felt like she, like, by the end of it she definitely was not part of the Empire, or like
Yeah.
very quickly actually she was not part of the Empire. And I like, again, I feel like if they were going to do an Inquisitor, they probably should have done someone else, someone that actually stayed as an Inquisitor, because yeah, it's Tales of the Empire. Like I want to see, like, you know, the rise of the Empire essentially, and we just didn't get that.
I
Yeah.
think something Disney might be a little bit afraid of is making the bad guy the main character.
Yes.
Yes.
And I would love to see some, like, give me some Empire, give me some Sith, give me, like, just give it to me. I want to see the dark side of Star Wars, and following an evil main character would absolutely just tee you up perfectly for that.
Yeah. I agree. We kind of had cutthroat, you know, ruthless Mando season 1, and then he kind of softened. You know, they softened Boba Fett. And it's just like I want, like, show me the bad guys being the bad guys, you know. That's okay. Like, I understand they're the bad guys. It's okay. You can I get that they're the bad guys. Show me them being bad.
Yeah, I feel like the only, well, not the only, but like I feel like the most prominent time they showed the bad guy being the bad guy is Darth Vader, like in multiple scenes. But like I just like think of primarily like when he in like Kenobi, when he's like dragging that person across the floor when he's in that town. Like he's just being a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like
That scene,
go ahead.
that scene even shocked me a little bit because I didn't think Disney had the balls for that kind of stuff. But like that just goes to show what they can do when they're not afraid.
Yeah.
And so I guess this is where we'll move on to our final Star Wars media here.
Last
And
one.
probably the most controversial on this list
Probably.
for the Star
Yep.
Wars community. Acolyte. I loved Acolyte.
I thought
had
Acolyte
some-
was very good.
It had some big flaws. Don't get me wrong. There was stuff wrong with it. I think all the good overshadowed the bad by like a mile.
Yeah. I have to agree. I'm trying to think like everything that I didn't like about the show or like had some qualms, like it's easily fixable like in the next season, you know,
If we
like
get one.
if we get one. Hey, Manny Jacinto, like he said at a con that he didn't want to give anything away for
Just in
season
case.
2 or 3, just in case.
Yeah.
So hopefully, maybe at the
Fingers
very
crossed.
least, we'll get some comics or books or something. But yeah, I think I would probably put it at a low A or a high. No, I think low A. Everything is fixable. It had really good moments.
Sharp, where will you put it?
I'm kind of thinking right around here. I personally enjoyed it more than Ahsoka. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I think it was sick. I love the era. I think we absolutely need more High Republic. And just so many of the characters were so cool. And we kind of went into this in the first video, but just the whole lineup was like interesting characters at the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people's complaints that you see online, they just didn't watch the entirety of the show. If you watch the show, I did not like the show until about episode 6, I think. Episode 6 is where it started to really turn around for me, and I was like, okay, I'm vibing with it. And then 7 and 8 were bangers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was
I
like, wow,
think
that's what I
I
want.
think I was kind of similar. I think 5 piqued my interest. I was still like, holding off. I was just like, I don't know if this is just not a show for me, or like, so like just something felt off. But I think it might have just been the way they decided to like edit the show. But it did like all come together in the end in a very like pretty satisfying way. And I was very looking forward to another season and like getting the story fleshed out. And hopefully we do get that, but I just hope that a vocal minority didn't ruin it for people.
I think low A is about right there. I was tossing it back and forth between like above and just below Ahsoka. The show is like very good. I mean, like all of these shows really has flaws, of course, but yeah, I think it was really really good. It really set up such a strong season 2, and I truly think like where it is right now, if hopefully we do get a season 2. I hadn't heard about any of this stuff about like maybe last I heard it was like no, it's been dropped. I think if we do get a season 2 and they like expand upon it, I think it can very easily climb up to a mid to high A. It sets up so many really strong, really cool things that are just really intriguing that we haven't really seen too much of in Star Wars. So, big fan of the show. I hope we get another season.
I
If
think
we
it
don't,
would.
that's really disappointing.
Yeah, I think it would be a huge mistake for them to drop it at this point because this show had 8 episodes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 8 episodes to set up an entirely new era of Star Wars, introduce us to characters and new concepts, and make us care about the characters in this show. And like they didn't have any source material to well, they had some with the High Republic, but uh at least in shows and movies, we don't have anything in the High Republic.
Yeah.
And so they were setting up this entirely different like time for Star Wars while they were also trying to tell its own individual story of the Acolyte. And I think it kind of missed the whole Acolyte title for me personally.
I agree.
Yeah.
But what it didn't do for that, it did so much more in other places. And I think season 2 and a potential season 3 absolutely would have made it just like one of my favorite shows out of Star Wars.
I could very easily see that happening.
Yeah.
And I think it was less an editing thing, in my opinion, and more of a narrative choice. They chose to not explain like anything for over half of the series. And it was just set up, set up, set up, set up, and then everything paid off, but a lot of people had already dropped off the show.
You know,
Yeah,
that probably is it. It's unfortunate because it did pay off fairly well.
I would agree. I think that's one of like it's up there for like strongest finale for any of the live action shows.
For me personally, I don't like what they did with OSHA and May, splitting them off, and I don't think OSHA should have become the one to go on the dark side. I think that should have been a longer burn kind of thing, but also they had 8 episodes to give us what they gave us.
Yeah, as I will continually say, TV right now is doing a disservice to the media for only putting out 8 episode seasons. They need to be longer. We used to have longer seasons in television, and they just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, streaming happens, so I don't know how to that would remedy, but yeah, we need more episodes. I miss being able to sit in the world and have like more filler episodes that like fleshed out the world a little bit of like what's happening, a bit more background information. It just they hit the ground running in episode 1 and they just keep going,
Yeah.
and not everything is fleshed out enough.
I think if you're gonna totally cut out filler, I think Andor truly hit the sweet spot at 12. Eight is just far too few. And it's just not enough. It's not enough, you know. I mean, we have some shows on here that have even less than that. I think Boba Fett has 7 episodes. I know Obi-Wan has 6. Like that is truly a disservice to the show. Like you are just not giving that show like the shot that it deserves to tell a good story. Like 6 episodes for Obi-Wan Kenobi, like that's criminal. You know, 8 episodes for Acolyte. That's not like 12 episodes. I think is a good happy medium.
In my perfect world, they're 24, but
Oh, 100%.
but like, yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, give me Clone Wars with 0 filler and tell me that it's the same show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. The filler is what makes that show. Like the silly things, yeah. But like every season we get like 6, like 3 episode arcs. It's so good. Guys, I think we did it.
Yeah, this video went way longer than I thought it was going to.
Holy cow. How long have we been recording for?
2 hours.
2 hours and 22 minutes.
Oh my gosh. If you've made it this far, truly thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for watching. And please feel free to argue with us in the comments and tell us how stupid we are. No, but these are the types of discussions that we want to be able to have on this channel, and we want to be able, yeah, we want to be able to disagree with each other. There's going to be videos in the future, I'm sure, where us three are not going to be so keen with each other about what we like and what we don't.
Yeah. I mean, this episode even, you know, we had our disagreements and we talked about it and we moved on. Crazy.
But yeah, thank you so much for the support if you made it this far. It means a lot to us, and we're
Truly.
just a couple of nerds talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, Yap City over here. What the heck?
So that's where we're going to call it for today. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank
Remember
you.
to subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.